us and support us on this endeavor. And I had fun twisting the title of the study tonight. Because when Mackenzie said it all starts in the family, it got me kind of concerned at first. So I twisted it. Where does it all start? Let's see if we come back to the original title at the end of the speech, which is more like a conversation, because we'll have a part of it too. So, where does it all start? That was the question I asked myself. So we need some definitions. Let's start. It's talking about war and peace. Let's define and see what is what. So we are starting on a common ground. So what's the war? War is a reciprocated armed conflict between two or more non-congruous entities aimed at achieving a subjectively designed, geopolitically desired result. Seems hard, right? It's not. It's not. If we go in small pieces, you'll see, as I say, what I saw, that it happens in my house every day, at some point. So, it's a reciprocate conflict. One doesn't provide the circumstances for war. It has to be more than one. Incarnated or disincarnated. We can't fight ourselves if we don't have two different ideas, right? How can we fight others if the ideas are the same? So, war means there are two different ideas. There's a conflict in place at home or wherever we are between two or more different entities, different people, incarnated, disincarnated, spirits, humans, aimed at achieving a design result. So, if I have a preconceived notion and I want to achieve that, that's my goal. If the other person has a different notion and wants to achieve that notion, it's a different goal. We are at war because we want different things. And we start a conflict, trying not to meet the middle ground, but to make our points met. So if I want to eat macaroni or pizza or pasta, whatever, and my daughter wants to eat beans, we cannot meet in the middle ground. We will have a conflict. It will be either or, and not the two combined. So one excluding the other. That's the basis of war. Is that clear so far? Is it? Okay. Now let's think about the country. When a country is at war, we know that nobody wins. Everybody loses. Even those who tell that they won a war, everybody loses in a war situation. Why? Because in a conflict, the price we pay to achieve our goal sometimes is higher than the price we pay to let it go. The same happens at home. Or not, or just in my place. I don't know, you look at me as if you never had gone through this, so it makes me think that it does. I hope not, but I hope so at the same time, because otherwise. But war could also be an interaction in which two or more militaries have a struggle of wills. And the basic words here are struggle and wills. Now, if we have a struggle, we don't have the same goals. If we don't have the same goals, and I want my goal to be better or to be achieved, and the others to be ignored, am I being selfish or what? So, could we say that selfishness is in the basis of every conflict? Even if I know that if my baby daughter put the finger on the outlet, there would be a shock. I know that. My point's right, it's true. She doesn't know it. There's a conflict there. I want my point to be met, not hers. But if she doesn't go through that experience, she will never know it. But as a mother, I don't want her to go through that. I want to protect her. And then I use the protection as a cover-up for the fight, for the war. And how many times have we done the same at home? Because there are times that we know better. And we want to avoid the other to go through the same struggles that we go. But can we really do that? And is the struggle the way to get there? If behind all struggles there is a selfishness element, necessarily. Let's move on. Some kinds of war, and these you are very familiar with, I'm sure. A civil war is a dispute between parties within the same nation. We see that, we're seeing this in Iran now. There's a civil war going on. In Brazil, oh no, we don't have civil wars. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Among different parties, more than two usually. And we're not talking about political struggle here. We're talking about civil struggle on the streets. A proxy war is a war that results when two powers use a third party or third parties as substitutes for fighting each other directly. And this is what happens to us. And that's why I let it be there. It's very interesting. Have you ever been through a situation where you cannot face the other person? You cannot fight for what you believe. Then you get someone else to fight that for you. Don't we do that? It's so subtle. We are not aware that we do this. And you know the best way we use to get to that point? Gossiping. We let the other know what we think about the third party. And we give our fight to that person. We manipulate people to get what we want. If we do this in a little environment, imagine in a country, the damage it might cause. And back to the little environment, imagine at home. Mom, dad, and the children. How we manipulate each other to get to our goal. Isn't it a struggle? Yes, it is. We don't have guns. We don't have, anything that can be dangerous, but we have our words. Our words, our thoughts, and more than that, we have the spirits that are around us that think the same way we do. And will join forces with us because we're in the same symphony. Let's move on. Now, what is peace? That's beautiful. From the Anglo-Norman paz, that's why in Portuguese we write P-A-Z, paz, because it comes from paz, meaning freedom from civil disorder. In English, the word came into use as a translation of the biblical term pax, or the Greek irene, I don't know how to say it, and Hebrew shalom, and the Arabic salam, with multiple meanings. Now look at the opposite of war: safety, welfare, prosperity, security, fortune, friendliness. That's the total opposite of what we were talking about before. And we're not talking about love and hate. We're talking about subproducts of a sick love. War is not a product of hate. Most of the times we are at war with the ones we love the most, without even being aware of it. And we cause them so many damages, so deep damages. And in a war, as we said before, there are no winners. Because when we cause damage to someone, we're damaging ourselves in the first place. So we are all losers at the end of the day. And the meaning of peace could also be, the personalized meaning is reflected in a non-violent lifestyle, which also describes a relationship between any people characterized by respect, justice, goodwill. That's how we translate peace in any environment we are in. Now you would say, well, these are beautiful words, they came from the gospel, right? Well, maybe they came from, a religious book, ethics book. They came from the internet, Wikipedia. It's a general definition. Now, if someone who's not religious or whoever wrote this, it's non-religious, so if they think that way, why do we insist on using war instead of peace on a daily basis, considering ourselves spiritists? If it's so obvious to those who don't believe in God, hypothetically, Why is it so hard for us that praise ourselves of being Christians? Why is it so hard to do it? To be respectful to each other? Why is it so hard to be just, to be fair? It's common sense. These words are just common sense. Let's move on. And none of them are mine, by the way. I would not be able to write that English at all. So they are not stolen, but they're borrowed from the internet, Wikipedia. Peace could especially mean, in the early English term, is also used in the sense of quiet, reflecting a calm, serene, and meditative approach to the family or group relationships that avoid quarreling and seeks tranquility, an absence of disturbance or agitation. And that's the main point. We're talking about family here. We're celebrating family, right? We should celebrate family every day, but we don't. Because we have a life to live, and sometimes our family is not part of our life. Or sometimes we tend to isolate our family from our lives. Or sometimes we only remember we have a family when we need support. But if we think that we are part of a bigger family than the one we were born into, we will see that these group relationships occur anywhere. And if I don't know how to treat the ones under my own roof, how am I going to treat the other ones? Who are my family members, but they are far away family members. How can I say that I'm being a good Christian if I treat people differently, based on race, based on beliefs, religious, political, based on economic aspects? How many of us have looked down people because they don't know how to speak any language, or because of their color? And how many of us have been looked down by the same reasons? How can we be family members if we're not respectful, just? So, does the peace start in the family? What do you think? Yes, no, maybe, whoever? Yeah? What do you think? In whose family? Someone has to give an address, so I can go and observe and maybe duplicate at home. So does it really start in the family? Yeah. It starts in our family and in the big family. See, when we're born, the role models that we have are the ones who are taking care of us. We don't know mom and dad, because these are social, cultural concepts that we learn. But we have the instincts. As babies, as newborns, we smell our mothers. We hear the voices of our fathers. We connect to them. I'm talking biologically, I'm not talking spiritually. We connect to them because of our instincts. We need to survive. And Mother Nature and God, they bless us with two people, and sometimes more, and sometimes less, that take care of our needs, the basic needs, to keep us moving on, moving and progressing physically. But the concept of mom and dad is learned. We learn it by imitation. We see the other children call mom and dad, and we want to call ours mom and dad too. That's why so many children who don't have moms or dads, they go to school and they come home, where's my dad, where's my mom? Because they want to have what the others have. And nowadays, the organization of our families is so diverse. We have two moms at home. We have two dads at home. We have a mom or a dad. We have grandma. We have grandpa. We have the uncle. We have the roommates. So the design of the family as we knew it in the past is no longer. And sometimes we get confused because we think that family is connected to the male, the female, and the children. And it's really not. The faces, the positions, the gender plays a role on that. But the meaning that I learned as being part of a family is built since the day I'm born, biologically speaking. As a spirit, that is a long, long time ago known, that we are all connected. that we are born and reborn in the same group of people, the same group of spirits in which we feel comfortable to be around, or with those that we need to learn from, or we need to teach. And most of the times we need to learn and teach. So there's the spiritual side of the story that we almost never see. And there's the biological aspect of it. And God is so perfect that both aspects come together in the shape of a small little baby. Hello. Hi. So it starts in the family. Yes, it does. In which family? Every single one. The small little one and the big one. What about those children who are raised in places that they have no access to a parent? They're abandoned since they are born. They will have the knowledge of the family, yes. They will have the same link and connection to someone or some group to an extent that meets their emotional needs. But they will also see there are family members around them that they don't belong to them, to that group of people. And they will miss it. And there's a trauma right there. And people say, oh, but my mom and my dad got divorced. Oh, my mom left me when I was baby. Oh, my dad left me when I was baby. Well, family goes far beyond that. Of course there's a trauma. But there are ways to overcome it. Because we are placed in a bigger family that sometimes we're blinded to and don't see. So why does peace start in the family? Well, you said it did, right? Now the next question is, why? I knew you would say it. See? Mackenzie told me. That's his fault. Yeah. So why does it start in the family? Because the family members are the first mediators between the newborn and the whole world. We are parents are like angels for that child. You know, when an animal, a pet, looks at you with that unconditional love, for that pet, you are God. A baby looks at mom and dad without knowledge, without knowing it's mom and dad, but that's someone who feeds, who takes care, who nurtures, like we are God. And it's such a great responsibility and painful, because some of us, including myself, can barely take care of ourselves, let alone another creature. But if God didn't trust us on that, He would not have given us any kids. He would not have given us the ability to live in society in the first place. And He would not have given us the ability to procreate and reproduce a species. So back to definitions. How can we define family? We talked about war. We talked about peace. Now let's try and put family in the mix. Family denotes a group of people or animals affiliated by consanguinity, affinity, or co-residence. That was the best definition I found, because it's non-religious and it's very interesting. And I fit right in there. See? Family of animals. Family of people. A group. Affiliated by blood. Oh, we were born in the same family. Affinity. And that's where we come into place. You know, when you meet someone and you know someone and become friends with that person, you feel like, no, I feel like I know you forever. There's such a great connection. You know, it's like brother and brother, brother and sister, vice versa. And then you wonder, wow, but how come? I never saw you before. We've been born in different places. We have different ways to be raised. And how come we feel so close? Affinity. Does it go through the biological aspect of it? No, it can't. It couldn't. It has to be by the spiritual side of it. By the spiritual aspect of it. If we are spirits and we've been living and being reborn in different bodies for so long, in different groups of people, of course there are connections. And we meet people for the first time around, yeah, but then we see them again and we start developing connections with these people. And centuries after, we see them again, on a different body, on a different envelope. But we still feel the same connection, as if I knew that person so long ago. Is this a family groupment? Yeah. It's a different level, but it's family. I don't have to have the same last name, or the same kind of blood. We don't even have the same kind of blood right in the family. We all have different ones. And co-residence, and that's what gets me, because in Brazil I never thought about it. Because there we don't have roommates, right? We don't share, we share your home with your relatives and your nuclear family, but you don't have co-residence. You don't have people who you don't know living with you. And here, that's what we do. Especially when you come here first, right? Usually we share the house with 10, I share with 14 people, and then 11 people. And because I'm selfish, I don't share much anymore, but people share. So these people, they become not accustomed to you, but they develop connections to you, and you develop to them. And you care for them. Someone gets sick, oh, I have something for you that might help. If someone doesn't have money to pay the rent, oh, I'll help you this month, and next month we share. Oh, someone doesn't have money for the food, okay, we'll take care of it this week. We'll see what happens next time. Isn't that what we do? That's how we develop not only friendship, but the brotherhood in a big, big family. So family goes far beyond my mom, my dad, my kids, my husband, my grandfather, my grandmother, or whoever. Families goes far beyond. And yes, peace and war starts right there. The nuclear family and the extended family. And when we can all be war makers and peacemakers. But because we still have in us the seed of selfishness, very strong, and it's natural. Because we are very far from being perfect. We still feel more pleasure on developing war and being war makers than being peacemakers. It's a natural tendency of us. So that's when the gossiping, that's when the eyes, like, ooh, right? Those sounds, those fake smiles come into place. That we pretend we are peaceful. But in reality, we are providing means for a war. That's the manipulation in the house. That's how to achieve my goal. Make my will come true. And on this friction, war is done, is installed, and fed by us. Let's move on. So, the family through diverse lens. And it's a very interesting concept. So I started reading it, I didn't know it at all. According to some authors in psychology, there are two kinds of families. From the perspective of parents and from the perspective of children. Never thought of it. I thought family was one thing. So family of orientation, through the perspective of children, has as a goal to keep children socially involved in the environment. So, as if we were children, we would look to our mom and dad, and we would see them as the responsible ones to make us fit into wherever we were, into school, into life in general. So from the perspective of a child, family has the only role to orient that child, to make that child fit. Now, from the perspective of adults, the major goal, I'm talking physically, biologically, right? The major goal is procreation. That was a surprise for me, because nowadays I don't think we need families to procreate, but apparently we do. Because it's not a nuclear family anymore. I'm talking about that connection between a man and a woman, or a man and a woman and a woman. But talking about procreation would be in a man and a woman. And the goal would be to produce and culture and socialize children. So biologically, that's what our body asks for. The same way as for children, that's what they ask from us. To help them fit. To help them adjust. To give them the culture, the socialization, the knowledge to make them live in the environment where they are. Now this is something very real. Different kinds of families. I was raised in a way that thinking that a family was mom, dad, and children. Because my family was, the makeup was that. My mom, my dad, myself, and my grandmother. So that was my family. And for many years I thought that the family should involve at least mom and dad. Then I moved to the States. Because in Brazil that's how it is. Then I moved to the States. And here, same-sex marriage is very common. It's legal now, but has been common for decades. One parent household is very common. In Brazil it happens, but it's not as natural as it is in here. And here, blended families are more common than ever, which is very interesting. It is natural back in Brazil too, but here it's so obvious. And these are the basic types of families we're talking about. So the first one is a typical family, we all know. Husband, wife, and children. That's the dream of decades ago. It might not be the reality of many of our children nowadays. At least the children that we deal with. Consanguineal family, one parent with children, and someone else. That someone else being anybody. A roommate, a co-worker, someone else that shares the same environment with that two people, with that parent and that child. And it's so common nowadays, a father, a single father, raising a child and sharing the house with someone else. That is a family, and I never knew it. Matrifocal, it's a mother and her children only. It's focused on the mother. Same sex, both parents of the same sex, and blended. Families with different parents bringing children from a former family to the new family. And there's a movie, it's Mine, Yours, Ours. It's an interesting movie. It's like 4 children from the father, 4 children from the mother, the 8 children together plus 2 from the couple. So it's a 10 children family. And it's interesting to see how it's so natural, and it's a family agreement. As important as the first one, as important as the second, the third, the fourth. It doesn't matter the design. What matters is the emotions, the connections that's in there. So who is my family? Now things get started. Who is my family? Who's your family? Yeah, who's your family? I thought my family was myself and my children. Now it's a lot bigger than that. It doesn't mean I have to give Christmas gifts to everybody, because then I will go bankrupt, but more than I already am. But it's a lot bigger than that. My family is based on the love I feel, and the love is felt for me, to those around me. Because in the end, the goal is to extend the love. So we practice in the small environment, and we extend it to the bigger environment. Those who cannot be trusted with small things cannot be trusted with big ones. And God knows us well enough to know we have to start small, baby steps. And if we do war at home, what kind of peace can we make outside the walls of the house? So who is my mother and who are my brothers? You know who said that? Jesus. Yeah. He was told his mom and his brothers were waiting for him on the outside. And he said, but who is my mother? And who are my brothers? My mother and my brothers are those who do my Father's wishes, who fulfill my Father's wishes. And I never understood it. So from the Gospel, chapter 14, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, not 4:14. Never losing an opportunity to teach, he, Jesus, therefore takes advantage of the moment and the arrival of his family in order to clearly show the difference which exists between bodily and spiritual kinship. Because I don't know if it ever happened to you, but I've heard a lot, not a lot, a couple of people tell me, It seems to me, as I heard, that I was born in a family that I don't belong. I've heard that many times. And I always wondered why. Because spiritually we are born among those we need to be with, to learn from and to teach, right? And some of these spirits are completely unknown to us. And others are very friendly to us. Others are still not friendly or unknown. They're enemies. And others, yet, they don't love us. We don't love them. They're just, there's indifference there. We need to build this bridge of affection with them. So, Jesus took that example to show us that there's a difference between the spiritual family and the blood family, the corporeal family. Because some of us belong to big, huge families, but we don't have the emotional links with all of them. And others belong to very small families, very tight families, and still don't have that link. And we wonder why. Corporeal relationship and spiritual relationship. Is there a difference? Absolutely. Blood ties do not necessarily create bonds between spirits. The body comes from the body, but the spirit does not proceed from the spirit, since the spirit already existed before the formation of the body. So, the child that I have as my child, I cooperated to that child in the sense that I helped build the body. But that spirit that animates that body is not my kid. It was not created by me. It was created by whoever created me. It's God. So the child I bear is not my child. And that's the problem. Because we create war based on selfishness. Because we think we possess people. So when people think different than we do, we lose them. And nobody really belongs to anybody. Our children are not ours. And it's a very hard concept to learn. It's so hard, so hard. I haven't even started learning it. I still think my children are mine. And I think I'll have many lives to find out the opposite. The parents do not create the spirit of the child. They do nothing more than supply the material wrapping, although it is their duty to help the intellectual and moral development of their child in order to further its progress, because we are all under the law of progress. We need to progress and achieve perfection throughout the reincarnation process. So, as a mother or father, if I receive those spirits in my family or in the family I'm part of, and I do not provide the means and the resources for the advancement, moral and intellectual, I'll be at fault. And that's why as parents we suffer so much. Because at some point of life you look back and you say, oh, I should have done that differently. Oh, if I had made that choice. But then, God is so perfect. He knows we sometimes are not ready to make the right choices. And He forgives us. But we still have the responsibility. So we are giving all the opportunities as parents of those who we didn't know how to care for. Again, to try and help a little bit more based on our experience now. Those incarnated in the same family, especially as close relations, are as often as not congenital spirits linked by past relationships, which express themselves during their earthly lives by the reciprocated affections. You all know I have 3 children, and when they were little, people used to ask me, do you love one more than the other? And I would say, that's a very hard answer. Because, honestly, we cannot love the same way 3 different people. Because they're different. And my connection to that people will be different as well. But the amount of love, the intensity of love, the responsibility is the same. So yes, we love the same way, but we love differently. Because every spirit is a different spirit. So there will be one who will need to be talked to in a different tone. There will be another who you don't even need to talk to. You look at the kid and the kid gets you. There will be another one who will be so shy and dependent that you need to give that little push to move forward. It doesn't mean we love more one than another. We love differently, yet the same. And it's so hard for children to understand that, as it's hard for adults to understand that. So it's interesting, the experience of having more than one child. It's multiplying love instead of dividing it. But it can also happen that these people are complete strangers to each other, or they may be distant from each other due to past aversions, which while on earth are translated into mutual antagonisms, which serve as probations. And we all have, I don't know about you, I have my very close family, people that I love dearly, but I cannot be next to, because I don't know how to be good to that person. It's a trial. Every single minute next to that person is a war with myself, between struggles. I'm struggling to be good, but I don't want to be good. I'm struggling to do right, but I don't want to do right. So this war sometimes makes us stay away from that person to avoid damage. But guess what? It doesn't work. Because we have to face that same struggle over and over and over again, not to win that person over, but ourselves. So if it's not a difficult wife or husband, it would be a difficult child. If it's not a difficult child, it would be a difficult husband or a difficult in-law. It will be anybody. But you will depend on that person, and the circumstances of life will make you depend on that person to the point where you cannot hide anymore. And the real family ties, these are not my words, they're Gospel's words, chapter 14. The real family ties are not those of blood, but those of mutual sympathy and the communion of ideas which hold spirits together before, during, and after their incarnations. That's what keeps us together. No contracts, no certificates, no birth certificates. Nothing material. These are just conventions that we need to live in a material world. But that's the sympathy and communion of ideas, thinking about the same, willing to find the same ways to solve the problems, or different ways to solve the same problems. Not a struggle of willpower, but an addition of energies, having the same goal in mind. So that's what makes people connect to each other and stay connected after death and before the reincarnation. It's interesting, before one of my daughters was born, I felt the presence of someone very, very dear to me, close to me. And at that time, I told to her father, I said, interesting, I'm feeling the presence of someone, but I don't know who. I used to dream about someone very dear to my heart, but I couldn't remind the face. And gosh, I just wanted to know if it was someone that I've met before and I don't remember. And that took me a while to figure out who the person was. Then I got pregnant. A few months later, I got pregnant, my child, one of my children. And when the baby was born, the same feeling I had when I had those dreams, and the same feeling I had feeling the presence of that dear person to me, next to me, when I held the baby for the first time, that feeling was there. So, what is it? Where is it coming from? That child was not my child. That body, yes, I cooperated to produce that body, but that child was not mine. Was given temporarily to me to do the best I could. And of course we cannot do the best we can because we're still selfish. We fail, we fall down, we cry, we struggle, we bump our heads against the wall and say, I should not have done that, if I knew better then. But now we do. In 10 years we'll know better than now. So who are my brothers? Who's my mother, my father, my family? From this, it follows that two people born of different parents may be more like brothers or sisters than if they were of the same blood. They can attract each other, search for each other, and so feel happy together whereas two blood brothers may be repelled by each other as is frequently seen. So that's why War and Peace starts in the family. Because wherever we are in the family. We have different addresses, different last names, different nationalities. But whoever is around us is our family member, period. We might not like it, but not liking it doesn't make it change. It is the way it is. Not knowing it doesn't make it different. It is the way it is. We are all brothers and sisters. And sometimes, besides brothers and sisters, we're husband and wife. We are mom and child, dad and child. We're cousins. We're relatives. But not even those links are bigger than the big brotherhood we are all part of. So yeah, we are brothers and sisters with those people that we don't like. And guess what? They are brothers and sisters with us too. Leading to the universal family. It's too small, I won't read it. This is in the gospel. I'll keep on going because I'm late already. Jesus was trying to make comprehensible when he said to his disciples, here's my mother and my brothers by spiritual ties, because all those who do the bidding of my Father who is in heaven are my brothers, my sisters, and my mother. Bidding or bidding, I don't know how to say it. So, Jesus is our big brother. And every time we try to do things the right way, we feel his presence closer to us. It's not because he's closer to us because we're trying to be good, no. It's because we get closer to him. Our willingness to make things right get us close to the big brother that he is taking care of us all. But how to survive peacefully the family trials? If I had the answer, I would be selling it. Just kidding. God never gives anyone a trial superior to the strength of the person who has asked for it. I need to put this on my fridge. Big letters. He only permits those tests which can be fulfilled. So whatever we are going through in life, in the house or among the ones we love or we don't love that much yet, we can make it. If we couldn't, we wouldn't be going through it. Therefore, if this does not happen, it's not for the lack of possibilities, the lack of willpower. So if we don't do the right thing, it's not because we don't have the chance to do it. We just don't want to. And we have to be honest to ourselves and not blame the other. Because the other cannot do the work we have to do for ourselves. So it's not because my daughter, my mom, my father did this. No, it's because I didn't do what I didn't want to try harder. And it's no shame on it. But after I know that I have the possibility and I don't want to do, I cannot complain. I cannot blame anybody. And I know that next life or whenever it comes, it will come back to me. And I will have to face the same situation over and over and over again until I learn my lesson and I solve that situation using my willpower. So there's no need to hide. And in fact, how many there are who instead of resisting their bad tendencies actually revel in them? So that's the war maker. The one who goes home and starts slamming doors. The one who goes home and starts blaming others for his or her own fault. But worse than that, the one who's in here at war all the time with the ones around them. Because sometimes we put a smile on the face, right? We pretend everything is okay. We ignore what the other is saying, not to get in a fight. But in here, we are at war. Constantly. And then we get sick and we don't know why. But everything seems to be alright. Perfect family picture. But in the war, everyone loses. Peace and war at home. This is in the gospel, I won't read it. And behind the walls of memory, families are formed by groupings of spirits who are induced to gather together because of their affinities or tastes, moral progress, and affections. That's what's behind it all. During the terrestrial migrations, these same spirits seek each other out in order to group themselves as they do in space, so giving origin to a united and homogeneous families. When we are sleeping and we dream, we more often than not, we seek those that are our family members. And sometimes we are granted the opportunity to visit them. And in the morning we wake up with that feeling of happiness, of fulfillment, because we've been with those we care and love. If during their peregrinations it so happens they are temporarily separated, then they will meet again later on, happy for the new progress which has been accomplished. But as they are not allowed to work exclusively for their own benefit, God permits that less advanced spirits incarnate amongst them, in order that these may receive good advice and examples which will help them. These are our troubled kids, our troubled parents, our troubled ourselves. Because we are troubled, at least I am. We all have that hard time understanding basic things in life, especially at home. We all have a hard time forgiving, especially at home. And we all have a hard time loving unconditionally, especially at home. We love the other so easily, but we lack the basic love for the one who's under our roof. Because it's so much easier to love someone you don't know than love someone you know by heart. And that's the big struggle. If there is a war worth to be fought, should be the war against ourselves and our tendencies, but not with someone else. Sometimes the spirits cause perturbation in the midst of others, which constitutes a trial, a task to be fulfilled. Therefore, receive these perturbed spirits as your brothers and sisters. Help them, and afterwards, when once again they are in the spiritual world, the family will be able to congratulate itself for having saved an outcast, who in their turn may save others. So it's not a shame to have difficult people in the family. Sometimes we are the difficult ones in our family. And God knows who had to tolerate us in the past, and who still will have to tolerate us. So it's good to put a good face on, but better yet is put a good heart on. This is the definition of peace. But that's the one I like. There's no way to peace. Peace is the way. Because the time we spend trying to think the way to make peace, it has to be there. We don't have to struggle, we don't have to plan, we don't have to manipulate in the name of the peace. We just need to be peaceful. And 2 more minutes talking about spirit centers. It's a big family here too. And we all go to different places, and sometimes in the spirit center we think, oh, because we're there in the name of God, or because we're there to pray, or to be consoled, or receive fulfillment, emotional and spiritual fulfillment, there will be no struggles, yes. As any family, a groupment, there's a struggle, more than one, sometimes many at a time, between different members. And most of the time, we are war makers. We are not peacemakers. So a wake-up call is when we are here, or whenever we are in a spirit center, and we feel pleased in making war, in manipulating people. And we do that without the knowledge that we are doing. So every time we ask the brother and sister here, how are you doing? Let's ask from the heart. Let's not go around and talking about each other's problems. Let's be respectful. Let's be fair. Let's try and practice in here, in a small family, to make sure that in the big family one day we'll be able to be peaceful too. Because sometimes in the name of religion, in the name of God, we make war. And we disguise our passions, our deepest needs to make war as if it was in the name of God. So we need to be very careful. Many religions fell because they used God to support war. The fall started inside the organizations and ended up on the outside. The Spiritist belief is the opposite. Because we don't need to start anything outside, we need to start inside. So the peace has to start here, in each one of us. And the peacemaker, in our case, is each one of us. I cannot bring peace to anybody. You cannot bring peace to me. We are the ones bringing peace to us. And if someone opens the door and comes here looking for peace, console, for some sort of support, we need to be peaceful ourselves to offer it to them. So it's an exercise we need to do first. Otherwise, this will be a place like any other, where people get together in name of God, but not living in name of God. So the wake-up call is not let the Spiritist doctrine fall into the same steps that so many other religions did, using the name of God, the beliefs, the principles of the Spiritist doctrine that enlighten us to manipulate people. So next time when someone tells something bad to you or says something bad to you, next time when someone say or do something that hurt you and you say, oh, but the next life, I know, next life, you fight. Let's not do that. Let's not use the beauty of knowledge against the principles themselves. And I'm talking especially about me, because we all have these passions, and sometimes we use the big family or the small family to make war, not peace. So let's be honest, let's be peaceful, but with ourselves first. So we don't carry war anywhere we go. And this is it. Thank you so much for your patience. And hopefully we'll be making peace, not war.